Hello, everybody, and welcome to OpenExO Live. Really good to be with you this week, back in the more normal time with Mars Robertson, who is coming to us from London. And as you can see, we have some amazing people coming up in the next couple of weeks. If you're still interested in being on OpenExO Live as part of our OpenExO community, you can head to the marketplace and sign up to be a part of OpenExO Live. It's really great to speak to so many different community members from around the world. And before we get Mars up here on stage, I do have two folks who have shared a little bit about Mars. And the first one comes from Julian, and he just said, Mars is a brilliant, futuristic, and exponential thinker. Crazy ideas are second nature to him. He is incredibly kind and supportive of others' MTPs, as is doing some super interesting things in the world of crypto. I'm grateful to have met him. And then we also have from Nikki, Mars is a special being. He has brilliance exuding from his pores and can communicate about any aspect of future good initiatives. When I reached out to him to give feedback, the results were exponential. His challenge, followed by mastery of the game, became a model use case for engaging community. If you want outside of the box approaches to solving world's problems, Mars is your person. So with that, I want to welcome Mars here up on screen. Mars, hi, how are you doing today?
OMG, now I feel on the spot to deliver. I am so grateful for this feedback, and I promise you to stay grounded and do not drink too much of the Kool-Aid, because I believe that ideas are cheap, execution that matters. Actions speak louder than words, and the Linus Torvalds, the founder of Linux and Git, the protocol Git, said, talk is cheap, show me the code. And with that said, I still believe that by connecting so many experiences, connecting so many different communities, having access to such an abundant knowledge, some of the ideas that come to me in some meditative state, using some spiritual techniques, I think that I have this gift to connect the dots and then work with other people, entrepreneurs, organizations, NGOs, governments, that I think I can come with some of ideas are good, some of the ideas are decent, but when you have 100, you can shortlist to 10, and within this 10, there are 3 that are making a perfect match. So thank you for this introduction. Now we have about 20-25 minutes to talk about EXO community, EXO adventure. So yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. It's an absolute pleasure. I couldn't agree more with the ideas versus execution. And I don't know if you've ever read the very small little book by Derek Sivers, who was the founder of CD Baby. And he has a matrix that is like idea, bad, good, excellent, and then execution, bad, good, excellent. And the execution's worth millions of points, and the ideas are worth 110.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I was actually, I can give you $1 million idea right now. Pick any successful startup from the Silicon Valley and go to a country that is yet to be developed. Pick, try and test the idea. You do not need to reinvent the wheel. Basically say Uber decides that this country, say, I don't know, Serbia, Macedonia, Kosovo, they say, it's a too small of a market and it's an uncertain jurisdiction. So you pick the Uber idea, copy paste, and you just run with this idea. Execution that matters.
Yeah, 100%. So Mars, tell us about how you actually became a part of the OpenExO community.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think it was 2018. I was at a Love Burn, which is like an alternative community-based Burning Man event in Miami. It was 2018, and when you go to high energy places, you meet high energy people. And I met a friend, Angela, who was just like me. We had amazing connection. We just clicked instantly, and basically she introduced me to the community. And the rest is history. Initially, I was sitting on the sidelines, consuming the content, reading the blogs, participating in the events. So it was more like a passive approach. And then, because I was receiving so much value from the community, from the inspirational members, inspirational guests, I thought, I want to be officially part of the club. So I did my certification. Now I'm very proud to be the consultant, and I can officially, legally, legitimately advise.
Absolutely. It's what I love is about hearing how so many people actually join the community through other community members, right? And I I do think that there's many amazing communities out there for sure. And but here I know Suman in India always says he sort of came for the methodology, but then stayed for the community. So he actually came, through just the book. And he was just like, it was just insane what the community can actually do. And I think that's because of the purpose driven nature, right? Of the way we think. I mean, obviously, MTP is super important as part of the EXO model. Would what is your MTP? Yeah.
Yeah, but one of my MTPs was realizing human potential to heal the planet. Realizing human potential because our brain has infinite capabilities. Us as humans, we can achieve enormous, monumental enterprises. The Manhattan Project comes to mind when there was a World War II and a pressure from the Nazi Germany. The brilliant scientists came to Los Alamos and conceived, it is, bad or good, but it's monumental one way or another. And similar thought applies to Apollo Project Apollo, putting man on the moon. It was the leadership of the JFK, the President Kennedy, who said, by the end of this decade, we put a man on the moon. And there was like the NASA, the National Aeronautic Space Agency, had like 3 or 4% of the national budget. There was a pressure from the Soviet Union, and the United States put the man on the moon. So this is, what I mean by realizing human potential. Like, okay, you put this clear objectives, aligned people, and then we can achieve enormous breakthroughs. And to heal the planet is because I believe that the climate change is the most pressing issue. Of course, I'm aware of the AI supremacy, AI going out of control. I am also afraid of human extinction due to some catastrophic event. However, the chances of it in the short period of time, in the 5 to 10 years, are relatively low, while the climate change remains critical in the next 5 to 10 years. So even though I'm deeply concerned of, AI supremacy, but I'm not worrying about the robot uprising on the planet Mars. It's not there yet. While the climate change is super urgent, pressing issue. I was to 3 COPs, the United Nations Climate Change Conference. Right now, I've been to Davos. I spoke with a number of influential people, and also I had the chance to bounce. You meet someone, and rather than starting from the small talk, I just turned it into kind of a being a playful. So I just say, hey, I'll just introduce myself, and here's my story in 30 seconds. I'm working on a new definition of value beyond GDP. It is called triple bottom line, people, planet, profit. This idea has been around for 30 years, but we never had the chance to actually properly evaluate value. And now we have a few technological breakthroughs. We have satellites. We have, Elon Musk, Starlink, the amount of satellites and the data is growing exponentially. We have drones. So if you want to verify if someone is planting the forest or sample the soil or anything related to climate change, soil quality, food system, the drones is another exponential technology. Now we also have blockchain. You have a data integrity, verification, transparency. So here we have three exponential technologies converging, and we also have the human awareness, like public awareness, that you do not need to sell climate change adaptation and mitigation to anyone because it's already on the mainstream agenda. So when I combine these multiple exponential technologies with the timing, with a clarity of vision, full conviction and full commitment, I was able to make a big change. I put all of my ideas on the anti-to-do list so I can focus 100% on this one project, because I was always connecting multiple communities, connecting multiple different experiences, festivals, people, networks, communities. And now I'm in a different phase of my life. I'm realizing that this particular project is my goal, is my vision. So I'm happy that I could share this vision with you and the wider community.
Awesome. That's really great. The other technology which you never mentioned on there, which is the sensors, right? The massive price drop in so many sensors. Ultimately, if we could have, if we can actually already sense, for example, does my yard add more oxygen or take away more oxygen, and therefore should I not, perhaps have less of a tax burden if I do this type of data makes that possible, right? And
Actually,
I guess this is exactly
let's add another exponential technology, which is big data and machine learning and AI, because with this IoT sensors, now we have such an abundance of data, which is impossible for human to process, but then we can find some analogies. And if a certain practice is working on one example, we can just tell other people to, hey, you should try using this plant with this variety. And this actually brings me to an idea of regenerative agriculture, because currently most of the food system relies on fertilizers and watering, like you need to provide the water. But if we change some farming techniques so there is more water retention and less fertilizers, and if you provide employment to people, then there will be less diesel or fuel consumed for the heavy machinery. There will be also less agricultural runoff, which means that the fertilizer that was put on the field goes into the water stream, that goes into the ocean. Then the ocean has too much natrients that causes the algae bloom, that consumes all the oxygen, that makes all the dead zones, and it's basically triggers ocean acidification. And there is this little plankton, this little thing don't has oxygen, so the entire food system is just messed up. So that's why accounting for this new dimensions of value, because now someone is not using fertilizer, so their crops are lower, and then there is a guy next door who is just using some government subsidies. So I believe that there should be a market price for CO2, and I don't call it carbon tax because I don't like taxes. It's like my principle. I'm originally from Poland. This is where my accent is coming from. And if you are from, say, you, Kevin, you are from South Africa, right?
Correct, yeah.
Sure. There are certain countries that have a high trust in the government. I would say that in certain places, the government, working for the government is a matter of a national pride. Where I'm coming from, Poland, due to long history of being under the occupation of other nations, the First World War, Second World War, the Soviet bloc, Iron Curtain. In my culture, if you are against your government, it is part of a national pride. In my culture, if you are actually finding a way to legally do not do not pay taxes, you're actually a smart guy. So what I would like to say, tax is a controversial word with different connotations. I much prefer market price. Because when you have the market price, people understand, this is a resource that has a price, we need to pay for it. And whether you are left spectrum, right spectrum, middle spectrum, hyperdimensional spectrum, market price for CO2 makes sense, and it is politically acceptable.
Yeah. No, I mean, 100%. I think you'd be hard pressed to find, but maybe you would find people who would say that there certain actions create certain environmental impacts, and currently there's no market price for how certain things are used, or how we are leaving the earth, for example. And so I mean it does make a lot of sense. Now, I said in the pre-time we were gonna probably go a little bit off topic, and and I want to just make sure we come back to you just sharing what it is with regards to exponential technologies, EXO thinking. Like, what's really got you excited? I mean, you've spoken a little bit about what you're working on now, but how does that link to what you've either through the community or the certification programs? Be really interesting to to get an understanding.
Absolutely. I would say great minds think alike. And there are a couple of people who have a great gift of communicating. I would say that the Salim Ismail, the founder, is a great communicator. Same applies to Peter Diamandis, who is the founder of Singularity, X Prize, and 10 different other ventures. So they are my virtual mentors. I never had a chance to meet them in person, but I'm following their principles. And the communities they've built, they are full of other visionary and exponential thinkers. So for me to be part of the community, I am, part of the club of people who have enormous access to resources, who have enormous connections. Because when you work in this industry, when you advise other companies, when you participate in the events, you build these relationships. So for me, access to the community and access to the network is absolutely next level. I feel at home. And I also remember from this introduction, out of the box ideas. In these circles, these out of the box ideas are not that radical, because we shifted. I would say here is the mainstream, and we are a few years ahead of the mainstream. We actually think about the future. So that's why business opportunities, different partnerships. This is a place to be. I feel very, very well connected here.
Awesome. And in terms of, we often speak about, Salim speaks about like at least 25 Gutenberg moments, right? Which are moments where technologies are so exponential that they're going to radically change the world. And like the Gutenberg press did. Now, we often speak about sensors and 3D printing and blockchain and robotics and I don't know, brain machine interfaces and genetic CRISPR and all these
3D printing and the drones and the batteries and the materials and VR, AI, XR. It's just infinite. Like all these technologies compounding on top of another. And maybe this will be a little bit boring, but I'm very bullish on the blockchain. It is changing the trust. Like when you look at the original Bitcoin white paper by Satoshi Nakamoto, it's created this Nakamoto consensus with proof of work. And then because we have the consensus, we have trust, The trust changes the governance, because now you do not need to trust a central bank or a central government. And the governance changes the economy, that changes the incentives. And I'm not talking about, I would say, early use of blockchain, which was just the currency, which was highly speculative. And now I see this as it changes every single, I would say, every single other exponential technology is affected by the blockchain. Now we have the trust changes governance, and we can literally change our economy, change our incentives, change our behavior. And I think that in the future, we actually need to go away from the single metric of GDP. And I am extremely bullish on blockchain. And I'm also, I would like to mention, honorable mention to psychedelics that has been made illegal 50 years ago by the war in Vietnam, because there was various peace movements, and the easiest way to suppress peace movements was to make weed, cannabis illegal. And then we had war on drugs, we had the private prison system. And when you put people to jail for smoking weed, you have a very low customer acquisition when you have a for-profit private prison system. And now, after 50 years of brainwashing, propaganda, and misinformation, we have the exponentially rising the number of scientific papers, investments, publicly traded companies. Now there is even like an ETF, which is like connecting various psychedelic, mushroom, psilocybin stocks. So I would say that this is it can literally change consciousness, it can change people perception. And of course we need the regulation, safety, like a safety protocols, just like the alcohol. We can agree you shouldn't drink and drive, and same applies to other substances. You shouldn't do certain things, but in terms of the potential healing for mental health, for depression, for PTSD, for end of the life anxiety, I think that this is something I'm truly passionate about.
No, absolutely. It may be a topic that people don't want to speak about, and it's often not on our slides, right? Of exponential technologies, maybe because it is one that can be polarizing, but I think it's important that it's spoken about, right? And to see open conferences happening and discussions happening, I think it's really important. I also wanted to just go back to the blockchain side and maybe get a little bit controversial, even though time is slowly running out. But I have this, having gone to a business school and done economics and always asked tough questions around the fact that economics is based on a lot of assumptions. It's also based on a lot of assumptions that made sense in the 1940s, 50s, 60s, maybe, but potentially not now. And I'm firmly someone who believes that a capitalist system works. Now this is a personal comment. This is not, I guess, the comments of OpenExO, but I don't believe we have a real capitalist system anywhere. Everything is tainted by some sort of crony capitalism, or there's no such thing as a free and fair market, because you have subsidies and you have so we've never seen the true power of pure capitalism. And I think the blockchain can really help us do that if we don't need the central authority, which often causes a mess in that system. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on that. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I'll give you a couple of examples. One of them is that the current pension system that was probably created by Otto von Bismarck. It was there Germany in the 1800s, and the average lifespan of a human was 40, maybe 45 years. So to give a pension to someone who is 65 was a safe bet. And now the pension system, when we have the longevity, healthcare, I don't think it will be sustainable. Another example of the law that hasn't been updated is the water rights. Back in the day, settlers in the Wild West, there was the wagons from the East Coast migrating to the West Coast, Wild West, population 100. Okay, if you are by the river, you have access to water. That was the law in the 1800s. And now we have, giant scale agriculture in the California. There is this Colorado River. And by the time the river goes to Mexico border, there's not a single drop because the US exploits all the resources. Another example of the incompatible law is current emission trading system that was designed when we had the knowledge of the, in the 90s. So there are so many things that were good and fit for purpose when they were designed. And now I would like to remind you, we live in the new world order. The COVID was a great reset for everything, quite literally. Every single industry had to rethink itself. Not just the healthcare, but education, transportation, everything. And when I was thinking that we will have some peaceful time to build back better, now we have the 24th of February and just the Putin who lost touch with the reality. I am originally from Poland. Place where I live, Krakow, is like 4 hours away from the Ukrainian border. I'm actually thinking about coming back to Poland because of the geopolitical importance of Poland. It is a part of the EU, part of NATO. We have a very close ties with Ukraine. We are friends. We speak almost the same language. We can understand each other. So I would say that Poland is like a next hot geopolitical hotspot, is like Shenzhen and Dubai. So my thoughts about the capitalism is that we cannot have infinite growth on the finite planet, and we cannot take debt to repay the previous debt. It's like just insane. And I think that we can actually build a new system, just like certain places, they went directly from mobile phones, they skipped the landlines. I think that some places now will go directly to Starlink because there's no point in building these 3G, 4G base stations. I think that some countries can skip the digitization, the traditional online services. They can go directly to blockchain. I think that some countries can actually use the massive help of AI because we didn't update the governance many years. The democracy is the ancient technology, and now we have internet.
Mars, we could speak for hours and hours more about just that, and I think we definitely should. And looking forward to those conversations. But I am going to have to bring this to an end and ask you to share one thing that you want people to know. You've already shared lots and lots of nuggets here, but that one thing that you want people to know as we call it a day here at OpenExO Live this evening.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be negative. Maybe I just used some very, very juicy, spicy, examples that are actually make people think. But by no means, I don't want to sound negative. I am aware of certain processes in the world, but I remain optimistic by every single metric. If you are a poor person, you have the lifestyle of a millionaire 100 years ago. You have access to every single resource. The closing thoughts are, EXO is the real thing. My direct messages, emails, Twitter, social media are open. I'm happy to continue this conversation. I had loads of fun recording it. I think we nailed it, and I'm so happy to be part of the community. Thank you.
Awesome, Mars. It is always great chatting to you, and we'll definitely be chatting to you again soon. And thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Awesome. So great chatting to Mars, and we definitely could have kept going. And so if you want to have more conversations like this, come over, join the community. You can do these publicly, in private, we're here to transform the world for a better future. And so if that's something you're interested in, do come join us. We'll see you all again next week.